So here are some of the moringa that I have been growing for overwintering. And as you can see, I'm in my porch. This is where we're going to work and do the thing we need to do with these moringas. And what I'm planning to do is cut this moringa right above the first cutting. This one doesn't have a first cut, but this one here, as you can see, this is where I cut it the first time. What I'm going to do is cut it back here about 2 inches above the first cutting, about 2 inches above, and we'll be saving the leaves for drying, and we're going to process that and save that for our moringa powder, which I could use for to mix with my smoothie and anything else that I could incorporate my moringa powder with for a good healthy drink and dish. So the stems, as you can see, that we're gonna cut from here, we'll take this here, the set of leaves all along the stems, and then the stems, this is what I'm going to do with that. Let me show you. Here is another pot where I have my moringa. This was a moringa which I thought would not do anything right, but apparently this moringa is it came up nice and healthy and just developed all kinds of leaves, which we have been gathering all the time. But the moringa cutting will be transplanted, or we're gonna stick that to an empty pot with some good soil to propagate it. As you can see, this one here, as you can see, it's got leaves starting to grow from this stem. This is a stem just like this one here. Let me pull this one out. This is a new stem. I'm sorry about the lighting. I'm facing the wrong side. If I could, okay, so this will be the cutting from my moringa that we are going to overwinter. And after we gather all of the sets of leaves that's on the stems, we are going to stick this stem into a good soil, and that's how you can propagate your moringa through cuttings. And as you can see, this one here is already growing some leaves, as well as this one here. And the stem is very skinny. It's a very thin stem. You don't need a really big stem to propagate your moringa, as I will show you along the way. On the other side of the house, I have moringa cuttings which are doing much better than this. But just to show you what you can do with your moringa cuttings if you're planning to overwinter a moringa. And I'm sorry about the lighting. This is so bad because I'm in my porch, and the light is actually coming from here, this side. So I'm trying to stick myself in this little corner to get that lighting to illuminate my moringa. Otherwise, I will have a backlit effect. Pardon me, I get tongue twisted so often. But we are going to transplant the moringa after we harvest all of the leaves, okay? And we're going to show you how we're doing that. Now, some of the pots are full. The soil is in a perfect level where I would want it to be, just like these two here. But if you look, some, such as this one, as you can see, is very low. We are going to transplant that and add more good potting soil in there. And of course, although we are going to overwinter this moringa, still needs some kind of maintenance, and we still need to provide it the proper nutrient that it needs when it does require some nutrition or nutrient to keep itself alive. And of course we're still going to be providing NPK. NPK stands for the three necessary nutrients that most plant needs, N being the nitrogen, P being the phosphorus, and K as the potassium. At least those three elements are necessary to keep your plant growing while it's overwintering. Okay, so I'm going to show you all that process as we go along. Right now we are going to trim or cut back all of this moringa so that we could transplant some and propagate the rest of the stems. And so as you can see, there's a lot of leaves there, and don't be concerned that you're cutting the moringa back quite low and not leaving any leaves in it. The leaves is not necessary at this point. I have made sure that this moringa was cared for in the best way possible during this summer, so the root system is in good shape. And as long as you every now and then check on it, as I'll be overwintering some of this in the greenhouse and some on my front porch facing the east southeast sky, so that it'll be getting lots of sun. So I will make sure that this is getting some watering, getting some water when it needs it. You still have to water, even though not so much in winter. And like I said, the necessary nutrients such as NPK, which are the three main components. NPK being the three main components that the plant needs in order to survive the winter or overwintering. So, pardon me, I'm looking at my husband and forgot how my camera looks. But as you can see, that's quite a good amount of leaves there, which we are going to process. We are going to rinse that very well, make sure there's no bugs or anything in there, and then we're gonna pull all of the leaves, the sets of leaves off of the stems, so that we can propagate the stem just by sticking them into a good soil, and then let the leaves dry so that we could process it for our moringa powder. Okay, for the root to be in good shape during overwintering, it's a good idea to make sure you have sufficient amount of soil that will nourish the root. Okay, it will also keep it warm. So you see the level of the soil on this pot is very low. So in another pot, which is the same size, I went ahead and put some soil at the bottom. Okay, just tap it down to make sure it's nice and packed. And I'm going to take this out from here and going to put it right some more water. We're going to add some more soil all around it to make sure that it's got sufficient amount of soil to keep it warm and nourished for the winter. So that's how we're going to do it. Okay, we're going the moringas that are low in soil, we're going to transplant that in a different pot so that we could add more soil to it, And those that are in good shape, like this here, some moringas are in good shape with as far as soil, so we don't have to worry about them. Okay, now, like I said, although we are overwintering the plants, and they don't do much growing and might not even need that much feeding, but they still need the necessary nutrient when they require it. And the best nutrient you can provide for them while overwintering for the fall and winter season is to provide them with the three necessary nutrients, such as the NPK. And like I said, NPK are the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that they need in order to keep on going for the winter. And hopefully by spring they'll be in good shape and ready to be transplanted outdoor directly to the garden, to the soil, or whichever way you're going to plant it, in a raised bed or directly to the ground. And here is my organic fertilizer that I'm going to use. This is an organic liquid all-purpose, okay? And I'm using 3.7, 2.7, 3.7 all-purpose liquid fertilizer. And as you can see, that's the nitrogen right there, 3.7. Not much of phosphorus, and which we don't really need it at this point, and 3.7, which is potassium, which will help the root to stay in good shape for the winter. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use. You could use different type. It could be granular, but I don't have granular fertilizer. This is what I have, liquid all-purpose, and this will be okay. I'm going to water all the moringa plants before I place them where they belong for overwintering. Okay, so as you can see, in this pot we have good potting soil in there, and I already have one in there. That's about 1.5 foot long of a moringa stem, which we harvested the leaves so that we could process it for our moringa powder for the winter. And the stem we just stick in there. We're going to add a little more soil in there so that we have a good enough soil in there to keep it going. But that's what you can do with your cuttings, moringa cuttings. And you don't have to be such a big fat stems, okay? I have planted some which are even thinner than these stems here, and they actually rooted. So right about there, and just stick it in the soil. Water it well with a good light mixture of good fertilizer and water. Okay, so this is what we have right now. We still got some more moringa there that needs to be transplanted for overwintering. Okay, so because we are overwintering the moringa, or any plant for that matter, if you're overwintering them in the greenhouse, you want to prevent any kind of bug infestation which any of your outdoor plant may be carrying through the soil, or any eggs that might be attached to the stems. So one way to prevent that from happening is we use, as you can see there, neem oil. Neem oil mixed with water. Let me show you. That's the neem oil right there. And we mix that with water and use that to soak the soil. And that's one way we can minimize the bug infestation from happening in a greenhouse or anywhere where you might want to store it. So another way, or another treatment that you can use, which is basically for the plant with lots of leaves, and even if it's just the stems like this moringa here, some eggs there, bug eggs, might be attached to the stems, and you want to make sure that you take care of that as well. And one way is by spraying it with pyrethrin. Okay, we mix the pyrethrin with water and spray it all along the stems of this moringa. I have the papaya already been transplanted and treated and ready for overwintering. I have that in my front porch, which I will give you a shot later on. Those papaya plants or trees are treated with neem oil in the soil and sprayed with pyrethrin. Now, pyrethrin is a very safe type of garden insect spray. This is made from the extract of a chrysanthemum flower. So pyrethrin is a very safe type of garden insect spray. Okay, that's one way you could prevent a lot of the insect infestation that might happen in your greenhouse or any place where you would like to overwinter your plants, especially your tropical plants that cannot withstand the winter outside. And the same thing with neem oil. I'm using a different brand, but I'm showing you this because neem oil was an extract from the seed as well. And neem oil, another plant-based extract that will prevent a lot of bug infestation that could happen. Okay, so those are the two things I use to prevent any kind of bug infestation while my plants are overwintering in a greenhouse, in the porch, or even inside your house. Okay, that's one way we could eliminate the bug problem. And so as you can see right here, I already have a mix, and it's very simple. Pardon me, I'm out of focus again. But okay, let's take for granted this is a candidate which I would like to bring inside the porch right here. So all I do is just go ahead and douse that with water that is mixed with neem oil. Just go ahead and pour that in there, and so you get the idea. Then we will spray that with pyrethrin before we put that inside the greenhouse and inside my porch. Okay, so let's put some of this soil inside the pot, which I'm going to use to transplant my papaya. Now, papaya requires a little more care than moringa. Moringa is a very forgiving plant. However, the papaya requires a little more attention, okay? So, you have a very good potting soil. And we're going to transfer the papaya plant in this bigger container here. Okay. Okay, so here's our papaya. I'm gonna pull this out of this smaller container. Now that we got the papaya in a container, we'll go ahead and fill it again with our good potting soil, enriched with azomite. Okay. Make sure that the roots have a very good contact of the soil. And let's add a little more on this. Okay, so here are my papaya and moringas. All the papayas were planted about 4 to 5 days ago today, and the moringa right here, as you can see, these are the moringa just been planted or transplanted about 3 days ago. And let me show you, when I first transplant the papaya, the next day I can see the shock it went through, and you see those yellow leaves right there. At least one or two leaves turned yellow, as you can see, and it's plant, and that is a sign that it went into a mild shock, transplanting shock, from which it now recovered, to show you how well it's now acclimated itself in its new area, its new place where they are going to be overwintering. Let me show you what this one is doing. You see that right there? That's a bud, and because it's overwintering and it's not needed. Oops, pardon me. I really don't need it for the papaya to start putting up bloom such as this. Pinch up the bloom because you don't want the plant to spend too much energy trying to keep the bloom nourished, and all that nourishment that will be taken away from the main plant and keeping the trunk nice and strong, and the leaves doing quite well. As you see right now, everything is looking vibrant green. It is now well acclimated right here in our porch, and no more sign of shock, transplanting shock, and doing quite well here.